Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome back to Weather for Weather Geeks. We're going to focus a lot on the snow that's coming our way tomorrow. It's not going to be a lot, but it can be impactful if you have some travel plans during the second half of Saturday into Saturday night. But before we get to that, let's review today very quickly with a time-lapse video. I love showing these time-lapse videos, especially when we have some interesting things going on with cloudiness, and the clouds thinned pretty nicely this afternoon. You're going to see that pretty nicely on our time-lapse here. Here's some intervals of blue starting to poke through, and then the clouds really started to thin around 3 p.m. or so, leading to a cold but nice sunset on this mid-January day. We're in the dead of winter now. Our average high is as cold as it gets. 32 is our average high, and that's at the bottom of the curve. Our average will bump up to 33 by the end of January. But climatologically speaking, from now through the next about 2 weeks, we're in kind of the heart of winter. All right, temperature-wise this evening, it's cold outside. The sky cleared, and good radiational cooling out there this evening, allowing whatever heat we acquired today to escape back out into space under that clear sky. So already, as of 7:13, we're seeing some teens showing up, especially in western PA, but even Salem's down to 19. Boardman is at 20. Temperatures will probably bottom out this evening and then maybe slowly rise later on tonight as the clouds roll back in. There's a look at that deck of cloudiness. This is associated with our major winter storm, of course, out across the middle of the country, and there's a whole host of winter weather winter storm warnings, I should say, winter weather advisories, winter storm watches that extend from the mid-Mississippi Valley across the Ohio Valley and then down into the southern Appalachians as well. And this includes some population centers such as Washington, D.C., and, well, St. Louis is kind of ground zero for this one. I'm going to show you the snow map in a minute, but they look to get to just about the most snow out of anyone with this winter storm. Already snowing to beat the band, as they say in St. Louis this evening, where rush hour was no doubt just a nightmare. So this storm is starting to get better organized, starting to pull in some Gulf moisture, and it's going to be a long night for folks out there. All right, let's talk about when the snow will arrive around here. This is going to be mostly an afternoon and evening kind of a deal for us. Here's a look at the map I put together this afternoon for arrival time. So we're talking early afternoon, kind of in the southwest corner of our viewing area. Salineville, Hanoverton, over towards Minerva, and then down towards East Liverpool. And then closer to mid-afternoon, once you're, say, north of Lisbon and up towards East Palestine and Columbian and Salem, and then all of Mahoning County. Generally 3 to 5 p.m. for the arrival time of some light snow. It'll start out pretty light, and then it'll pick up in intensity a little bit. And then the last places to see the snow arriving will be areas primarily north of Interstate 80. And it's still possible that dry air wins out enough that the far northern parts of Trumbull and Mercer may not see much more than flurries out of this. So there's going to be a sharp northern cutoff somewhere. All right, so here's our model depiction for tomorrow. Already snowing early in the day in Columbus and Cincy, but again, it takes until afternoon to get here, and then it'll snow pretty steadily in most spots all evening, and then it'll taper off pretty quickly overnight, say between 2 and 5 a.m. Just off screen here, just above the banner, an area of high pressure will be feeding some dry air in from the north. That's going to start to chop away at the snow overnight tomorrow night. So by Sunday morning, I think the snow's gone. And in fact, the sun will break out by midday or afternoon on Sunday. It'll be seasonably cold, but overall not a bad end of the weekend. And then we should have a good deal of sunshine as we kick off next week. All right, amounts. My ideas here have not changed much since yesterday. Still not sure what the RPM is doing. It insists that we get hardly anything, even in southern Trumbull and Mahoning County. I think that's still an outlier. This is the model spread for kind of the Youngstown to Warren corridor, showing a general, 1.5 to 2 inches or so. Most of it, of course, coming after dark, Saturday evening. When we look down towards East Liverpool, and just like last night, the lines jump up. The amounts should get a little higher as you go off to the south. The RPM is playing ball a little bit down here, but even it is the low model here for the southern tier of Columbiana County. On the high end, the NAM suggests close to 3, the European about 2.5. And keep in mind, most of these numbers are based on 10-to-1 liquid to snow ratios. I think our ratios will be a little higher than that, so you could probably add on a little bit to those model outputs, a little higher than shown. Here we go with the snow map, and again, this hasn't changed much. Close to a foot in St. Louis, Cincinnati, especially the north side of Cincy, pretty close to 6. Columbus should end up with 3, 4, 5. Zanesville, kind of in that zone as well. I think Zanesville gets about 3 to 4. A little bit closer to home, again, the idea here is we're on the northern fringes, so we're not going to be in the heart of this, but enough to be impactful, I think. Coating to an inch, kind of the northern half of both Trumbull and Mercer. Chances for an inch or so increase as you get down towards Warren and Niles and Girard and Hermitage and Hubbard and, well, the heart of Mahoning County as well. And then your chances of more than 2 and closer to 3 increase the farther south you are. So I think there's going to be some 3-inch totals in some spots in Columbiana County. Your chances of 3 decrease, though, as you go northward up into Mahoning and especially up into Trumbull and Mercer. So it's not all the snow in the world, but especially after dark Saturday evening with temperatures in the 20s, this can be impactful on untreated surfaces. All it takes is 3/4 of an inch of snow on an untreated surface. It gets slick and bingo. And because this isn't a big storm, I would expect fairly normal Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening traffic. If we were getting a big snowstorm, a lot of people would stay home. So there'll be a lot of people out. Keep an eye on what other people are doing on the roads in addition to being safe yourself. All right, I talked about those snow to liquid ratios. Kind of an average around here is 10 to 12 to 1 snow to liquid ratio. In other words, an inch of rain is roughly equivalent to 10 or 12 inches of snow. This will be a little bit drier of a snow with that high pressure zone off to the north feeding in some drier air into the lower levels of the atmosphere. Therefore, our ratios will be a little higher, probably 15 to 1 as an average. What does that mean? It's kind of cool to think of this stuff, but also it has some practical impacts. It'll be a weekend with some snow falling, and the kids will probably, for the first time this year, want to get outside and play and make snowballs and snowmen and stuff if you get enough snow for that. When the ratios get this high, it's kind of that powdery stuff that kind of crumbles in your hands a little more easily than when it's closer to 12 or 10 to 1. That snow sticks together a little bit better, makes for a more efficient snowman building. As we go into the longer range, and I tweeted about this earlier, I didn't post it on Facebook, but if you follow me on Twitter, I talked about how the signals are increasing in the longer range for some pretty consistently cold weather, perhaps the most consistent cold weather that we've had so far this winter. Late in January, this is the 8 to 14 day outlook, and especially towards the latter half of this 8 to 14 day outlook, as we go into like the 23rd through the end of the month, looks like a pretty cold pattern that should take us into February, and I like to see that. I'm not a big fan of the cold and snow. Not sure about how much snow we get out of this pattern, but despite me not being a big fan of the cold, that was the idea with our winter forecast, that this would be a backloaded winter, unlike the last 2 years where February has been very warm. This year, the worst of the winter weather, especially temperature-wise, would probably be towards the back half of winter. And so it's nice to see some of that playing out on the modeling for the end of January and into February. Well, of course, I'll have fresh model data at my disposal this evening, and I'll have an updated snow map if I need to make any tweaks before the 11 o'clock newscast tonight. Look for that on social media. Otherwise, you'll see me tonight on 21 News at 11, and I'll check in tomorrow morning probably with a video blog from home and check out Chris Serinelli's updates here on WFMJ today. Bright and early. I think they hit the air at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning. So if you want the freshest update on the TV side, check out Chris's forecast in the morning. Otherwise, have a great weekend, everyone.